There comes a moment in every life when the soul grows tired of carrying what it was never meant to hold. A moment when the heart whispers, quietly at first and then with growing insistence, that some things must be laid down, not because you failed, not because you did not try hard enough, but because control was never yours to begin with. Detachment is not abandonment. It is not coldness. It is not the absence of love. Detachment is wisdom learning how to breathe. We are taught early to grip tightly, hold on, fight harder, fix what is broken, mend what is tearing, save what is sinking. And while there is beauty in perseverance, there is danger in believing that everything is ours to rescue. Some people will not change because they do not want to. Some problems will not resolve because they are not yet ready. Some situations will not bend no matter how much you bow your back beneath them. And the tragedy is not that these things exist. The tragedy is believing your worth is measured by how long you suffer trying to control them. You can love deeply and still let go. You can care profoundly and still step back. You can give your best and still refuse to give yourself away piece by piece. Detachment begins when you understand that peace is not selfish. Peace is necessary. A tired spirit cannot heal others. A wounded heart cannot guide wisely. A mind constantly at war cannot hear its own truth. People will come into your life carrying their own storms. They will ask you to be shelter while refusing to lay down their thunder. They will say they need you, but what they truly need is to face themselves. You may listen. You may advise. You may stand beside them, but you cannot live their lessons for them. You cannot learn on their behalf. You cannot grow their courage in the soil of your sacrifice. Loving someone does not require losing yourself. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop bleeding for what refuses to heal. It means you no longer chase clarity from those who thrive on confusion. It means you stop explaining your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you. It means you let people be who they are without insisting they become who you need them to be. When you release that burden, something sacred happens. Your hands, once clenched, finally open. And in that openness, you make room for peace. Problems, too, can become prisons when we stare at them long enough. We replay them in our minds until they feel larger than life. We carry them into every room, every conversation, every quiet moment. But not every problem needs your constant attention. Some need patience. Some need distance. Some need acceptance. Detachment from problems does not mean ignoring reality. It means understanding that panic is not a strategy and worry is not a solution. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to say, "This is bigger than me, and I will do what I can without destroying myself in the process." Strength is not measured by how much you endure, but by how wisely you choose what deserves your energy. There is a difference between responsibility and self-punishment. Learn it. Live it. Situations beyond your control have a way of revealing who you are becoming. They test your patience, your faith, your resilience. They invite you to surrender the illusion that you are the architect of every outcome. You can prepare. You plan. You can hope. But life will still surprise you. Detachment teaches you to meet those surprises without losing your center, to bend without breaking, to accept without collapsing. When you detach, you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" You stop demanding guarantees and start cultivating trust. You stop fighting the river and learn how to float. This is not weakness. This is mastery. It takes courage to release control in a world that rewards force. It takes faith to loosen your grip when fear tells you to hold tighter. There will be people who accuse you of changing when you begin to detach. They will say you are distant, different, no longer the same. And they will be right. You are no longer available for chaos. You are no longer fluent in dysfunction. You are no longer willing to sacrifice your peace to prove your loyalty. Growth always looks like abandonment to those who benefited from your self-neglect. Detachment teaches you boundaries, and boundaries teach you self-respect. You learn where you end and where others begin. You learn that saying no is not cruelty, and silence is not guilt. You learn that you are not responsible for how others feel about your truth. You are only responsible for living it with integrity. When you detach, you stop negotiating with disrespect. You stop returning to places that shrink you. You stop mistaking familiarity for safety. You stop confusing intensity with love. You begin to recognize calm as a form of affection, peace as a sign of alignment, stillness as strength. Letting go is not an event, it is a practice. Some days you will release easily. Other days your hands will tremble as you loosen your grip. Be gentle with yourself. You are unlearning habits formed in survival. You are teaching your nervous system that rest is allowed. You are reminding your heart that it does not have to earn love through suffering. There will be moments when detachment feels lonely, when the noise fades and you are left alone with yourself. Do not fear that quiet. It is where clarity lies. It is where your voice returns. It is where you remember who you were before the world told you who to be. Loneliness passes. Self-abandonment leaves scars. You are not here to control people. You are here to connect with them. You are not here to solve every problem. You are here to grow through them. You are not here to force outcomes. You are here to align with truth. When you detach, you trust life enough to meet you halfway. Some relationships will fall away when you stop overgiving. Let them. Some situations will resolve only when you stop interfering. Allow them. Some problems will shrink when you stop feeding them your fear. Observe them. Detachment clears your vision. It allows you to see what is truly yours and what never was. Your peace matters. Your energy matters. Your time matters. Do not scatter them like loose change hoping someone will value them. Invest them where they grow. Protect them where they heal. Honor them where they are returned. Detachment is choosing yourself without apology. It is loving without chains. It is caring without control. It is standing in your truth even when others walk away. It is understanding that life is not asking you to carry everything, only to carry what is yours with grace. And when you finally release what you cannot control, you will feel it. That lightness, that exhale, that quiet joy. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer at war with what is. You are present, you are grounded, you are free. And freedom, once tasted, teaches you how to stay. What drains you is teaching you what to release. Even when you resist the lesson, even when you argue with it, even when you tell yourself that endurance is the same thing as strength. There are things in life that do not announce themselves as burdens at first. They arrive quietly, disguised as responsibility, loyalty, love, or hope. You take them on willingly, believing that patience will turn them lighter, that effort will make them manageable, that time will reward your persistence. But over time, your body begins to speak before your mind is ready to listen. You feel tired in ways sleep cannot fix. You feel heavy in places that joy once occupied. You feel distant from yourself, as though something essential is being spent without your consent. Drain does not always come from effort. It often comes from resistance, from holding on to what no longer fits the shape of your becoming, from carrying expectations that were never yours to fulfill, from staying in conversations that silence your truth, from returning to situations that demand more than they give, from explaining yourself to people who have already decided not to understand. Every time you override your inner knowing to keep the peace, something inside you pays the price. Every time you say yes while your spirit whispers no, the cost compounds. What drains you is not attacking you. It is instructing you. It is showing you the edge of your capacity. It is revealing where you have been overextending your compassion without replenishment. It is pointing toward the places where your boundaries have thinned into habits of self-neglect. Fatigue is not a moral failure. Exhaustion is not weakness. It is information. And information, when honored, becomes guidance. You were not designed to be endlessly available. You were not created to absorb everyone else's chaos and call it empathy. There is a difference between caring and carrying. Caring allows you to remain whole. Carrying slowly dismantles you. When you carry what drains you, you teach others that access to you has no cost. When you release what drains you, you teach yourself that your energy is sacred. Sometimes what drains you is not a thing but a pattern, a cycle of trying harder when rest is required, a habit of fixing when acceptance is needed, a belief that love must be proven through sacrifice. These patterns are learned early and reinforced often. They do not dissolve simply because you recognize them. They loosen their grip when you choose differently, repeatedly. Even when guilt rises to protest, guilt is not always a sign that you are wrong. Sometimes it is a sign that you are breaking an agreement you never consciously made but have honored for years. Releasing what drains you does not mean you stop showing up. It means you stop showing up in ways that erase you. It means you choose honesty over harmony, clarity over comfort, self-respect over approval. It means you trust that what is meant for you will not require your depletion as proof of devotion. The right responsibilities do not hollow you out. The right connections do not leave you questioning your worth. The right efforts, even when demanding, restore something in you as they take. There are people who will benefit from your exhaustion and call it generosity. There are situations that thrive on your silence and label it maturity. There are expectations that survive only because you continue to meet them at the expense of your own well-being. When you stop feeding these dynamics, they may protest. They may accuse. They may attempt to pull you back into familiar roles. This is not evidence that you are wrong. It is evidence that something has been sustained by your over-giving. Pay attention to where your energy goes and how it returns. Notice which spaces leave you clearer and which leave you confused. Notice which commitments strengthen your sense of self and which slowly blur it. The body rarely lies. Tension, dread, resentment, and chronic fatigue are not random experiences. They are signals asking for recalibration. Ignoring them does not make you noble. It makes you disconnected from your own wisdom. Letting go is not dramatic. It is often quiet and internal. It begins with small refusals, with pauses where you once rushed, with questions where you once complied, with rest where you once pushed. It begins when you stop justifying your limits and start honoring them. You do not need permission to protect your vitality. You do not need consensus to choose what sustains you. What drains you may have once been necessary. It may have taught you endurance, patience, or compassion. But lessons do not require lifelong enrollment. Growth demands discernment, the ability to recognize when a season has ended. Holding on past that point turns learning into suffering. Releasing is not erasing the past. It is acknowledging that you have received what you were meant to receive and are no longer required to pay in exhaustion. There is relief on the other side of release, but it does not arrive all at once. It arrives in moments of unexpected lightness, in laughter that comes easier, in mornings that feel less heavy, in choices that align without force. As you let go of what drains you, you reclaim parts of yourself that were quietly rationed out to survive. You begin to feel again, not just tired or obligated, but alive, present, and rooted in your own center. This is not about doing less for the sake of ease. It is about doing what is true without self-betrayal. It is about recognizing that your energy is finite and valuable. It is about understanding that depletion is not the price of purpose. When you listen to what drains you, you hear the language of your boundaries. When you honor that language, you step into a way of living that does not require constant recovery, a way of being where effort and ease are no longer enemies, but partners moving at the pace of truth. Freedom starts when acceptance replaces resistance, not because life suddenly becomes gentle, but because you stop exhausting yourself by fighting what already exists. Resistance has a way of disguising itself as strength. It convinces you that pushing harder, arguing longer, and holding tighter will eventually bend reality to your will. But resistance is not power. It is friction. It is the constant tension between what is and what you wish would be. And over time, that tension drains your spirit more than the situation ever could. Acceptance is often misunderstood. People hear the word and imagine surrender, defeat, passivity. But acceptance is not giving up. It is giving in to truth. It is the moment you stop lying to yourself about what you can change and what you cannot. It is the moment you say, this is happening, this is who they are, this is where I am, without adding judgment or shame. Acceptance does not trap you. It liberates you from denial. When you resist reality, you argue with facts. You replay conversations that already ended. You rehearse outcomes that never arrive. You hold on to versions of people that exist only in memory or hope. Resistance keeps you mentally occupied but emotionally stuck. You may look busy, strong, determined, but inside you are exhausted from fighting a battle that has no finish line. Acceptance shifts the focus inward. Instead of asking, how do I make this different, you ask, how do I respond differently? Instead of demanding control, you cultivate clarity. You recognize that you cannot force understanding, honesty, effort, or growth from anyone else. You can only choose how close you stand to what harms you, and how long you stay where you are not nourished. There is a quiet relief that comes with acceptance. Not relief because things improve, but relief because you stop pretending they are something they are not. You stop chasing apologies that will never come. You stop waiting for potential to become behavior. You stop investing in maybes and start responding to evidence. This is where freedom begins, not in the absence of difficulty, but in the presence of truth. Resistance often comes from fear. Fear that if you accept what is, you will lose hope. Fear that acceptance means settling. Fear that letting go of the fight means admitting defeat. But acceptance does not steal hope. It refines it. It removes false hope, the kind that keeps you stuck, and makes room for honest hope, the kind that allows movement. You stop hoping that others will change and start hoping that you will choose well. Freedom does not arrive with loud announcements. It arrives quietly when you stop arguing with reality in your own mind, when your thoughts soften, when your breath deepens. When you realize how much energy you have been spending on resistance alone, acceptance returns that energy to you. It gives you options. It gives you space. It gives you yourself. There are situations where resistance feels justified. Injustice, loss, betrayal, pain. Acceptance in these moments does not mean approval. It means acknowledgement. It means recognizing the wound without reopening it every day through denial. It means allowing grief to move instead of freezing it in anger. Acceptance allows healing to begin because healing cannot take root in refusal. When you accept, you stop personalizing everything. You stop interpreting every disappointment as a reflection of your worth. You begin to see that some outcomes are about timing, readiness, capacity, and choice, not your value. This understanding lightens the emotional load you have been carrying. You no longer punish yourself for what was never yours to control. Acceptance teaches patience, but not the kind that waits endlessly. It teaches the patience to observe, to assess, to choose wisely. It teaches discernment. You learn when to stay and when to step back, when to speak and when silence protects your peace, when effort is meaningful and when it is self-erasing. Resistance keeps you locked in reaction. Acceptance returns you to intention. You move from surviving to deciding, from enduring to selecting, from clinging to aligning. This shift changes how you experience everything. The same circumstances may remain, but your inner landscape transforms. You feel steadier, less desperate, more grounded in yourself. Freedom also comes from accepting your own limits, accepting that you cannot be everything to everyone, accepting that rest is not laziness, accepting that needing space does not make you unloving, accepting that you are allowed to change your mind, your direction, your priorities. Resistance to your own humanity creates as much suffering as resistance to external events. When acceptance replaces resistance, relationships change. You stop trying to convince people of your worth. You stop negotiating for basic respect. You see clearly who meets you where you are and who only engages when you overextend. This clarity may be painful, but it is clean. It does not linger like confusion does. It does not drain you slowly. It tells the truth all at once. Freedom is not the absence of constraints. It is the absence of unnecessary struggle. Acceptance removes the struggle you add to pain. It does not deny difficulty. It simply refuses to multiply it. You learn to say this hurts without asking why me. You learn to say this is over without replaying it endlessly. You learn to say this is not for me without explaining yourself into exhaustion. The practice of acceptance is daily. Some days you will resist out of habit. You will argue with reality again. Be gentle when that happens. Acceptance grows through repetition, not perfection. Each time you notice resistance and soften it, you reclaim a little more peace. Each time you stop forcing, you step closer to freedom. Freedom begins internally long before it shows externally. It begins in the mind that stops fighting facts, in the heart that releases attachment to outcomes, in the body that no longer braces for what already is. Acceptance clears the path forward not by removing obstacles, but by teaching you how to move without carrying their weight, how to live without being at war with the present moment, how to stand firmly in what is real while remaining open to what may still unfold. Your healing does not need everyone's approval. Even though you may have been taught to seek permission before you choose yourself, from an early age, many learn to measure their worth by how well they are received, how easily they are accepted, how little discomfort they cause others. You learn to soften your truth, dilute your pain, and delay your recovery so it does not inconvenience the people around you. Over time, this habit becomes so familiar that healing feels wrong if it is not validated, questioned, or witnessed by others. But healing is not a performance. It does not exist to be applauded, understood, or agreed with. Healing is an intimate process between you and your inner life, between your wounds and your willingness to tend to them. Some people will not understand your boundaries because they benefited from your lack of them. Some will question your distance because they were comfortable with your silence. Some will resist your growth because it disrupts the version of you they learned how to control. Their discomfort does not mean you are wrong. It means you are no longer available in the same ways. Approval seeking keeps wounds open longer than necessary. When you wait for everyone to agree with your choices, you hand your recovery over to opinions that are shaped by bias, fear, and limited perspective. Not everyone has the capacity to hold your truth gently. Not everyone wants to see you whole if your wholeness requires them to adjust. Healing asks you to trust yourself before you are understood, to choose peace before it is celebrated. There is a quiet courage in deciding to heal anyway, to rest even when others call it laziness, to step back even when others accuse you of giving up, to say no even when others expect endless access. Healing often looks selfish to those who only knew you as self-sacrificing. It looks cold to those who depended on your emotional labor. It looks distant to those who never learned how to meet you halfway. None of that defines the truth of what you are doing. You do not owe explanations for the ways you are protecting yourself. You do not need consensus to grieve, to forgive, to let go, or to begin again. Some people will never agree with your version of events because accepting it would require accountability. Some will minimize your pain because acknowledging it would expose their role. Some will encourage you to move on quickly because your healing reminds them of what they have avoided. Their reactions are reflections of their limitations, not measurements of your reality. Healing is rarely neat. It is not linear, predictable, or polite. Some days you will feel strong. Other days you will feel fragile and unsure. Neither state requires permission. Neither needs to be justified. Growth includes confusion. Recovery includes rest. Strength includes vulnerability. When you stop asking others to validate each step, you free yourself to move at the pace your nervous system can sustain. There will be people who misunderstand your silence. They will assume distance means bitterness, that boundaries mean punishment, that privacy means secrecy. You do not need to correct every assumption. You do not need to defend every decision. Clarity is valuable, but not when it costs you peace. Sometimes the most healing response is restraint, allowing others to sit with their interpretations while you continue choosing what is right for you. Your healing may make others uncomfortable because it changes the dynamics they relied on. When you stop absorbing blame, someone else must carry it. When you stop fixing, someone else must face consequences. When you stop overextending, someone else must confront their own lack of effort. This shift can provoke resistance, criticism, or withdrawal. These reactions are not signs that you should return to old patterns. They are signs that the old patterns are no longer working. You are allowed to heal quietly. You are allowed to heal privately. You are allowed to heal without updates, explanations, or progress reports. Not everyone deserves access to your inner process. Some people are spectators, not supporters. Some listen only to respond, not to understand. Healing asks you to discern who is safe to share with and who is not entitled to your story. Seeking approval often comes from a desire to be seen and believed. That desire is human. But when belief does not come, you do not have to abandon yourself. You can validate your own experience. You can trust your memory. You can honor your pain without an audience. Self-trust becomes the foundation when external validation is inconsistent or absent. Healing without approval also means releasing the need to be liked while you recover. Growth will not always make you agreeable. Honesty may sound sharp to those accustomed to your silence. Limits may feel harsh to those who cross them freely. Change may feel threatening to those invested in your familiarity. Approval fades quickly. Self-respect stays. There is strength in choosing yourself even when it costs you acceptance. Temporary discomfort is often the price of long-term peace. Healing may shrink your circle before it expands your life. It may clarify who is aligned with your well-being and who is attached to your endurance. This clarity, though painful, is part of the medicine. You do not need to convince anyone that your pain was real, that your exhaustion was valid, that your boundaries are necessary. Healing is not a courtroom. You are not on trial. You are in recovery. Recovery asks for honesty, patience, and commitment, not approval. It asks you to show up for yourself consistently, even when others question your choices. As you heal, you may notice an urge to explain less, to justify less, to share selectively. This is not withdrawal. It is discernment. It is learning that your energy is better spent on living than on proving. You begin to recognize that those who truly care do not require constant explanations. They trust your process even if they do not fully understand it. Your healing does not need applause. It does not need permission. It does not need agreement. It needs space. It needs consistency. It needs compassion directed inward. When you stop waiting for others to approve, you reclaim the authority over your own life. You move from surviving reactions to making intentional choices. You stop negotiating your well-being for acceptance. There is a deep relief in realizing that you are allowed to heal simply because you are hurting. that your pain does not have to be dramatic to be deserving of care, that your boundaries do not have to be justified to be honored, that your recovery does not have to make sense to everyone to be real. This relief settles into your body as steadiness, as quiet confidence, as a growing trust in your own judgment. Healing is an act of self-loyalty. It is choosing alignment over approval, truth over comfort, integrity over acceptance. When you commit to healing without requiring permission, you step into a relationship with yourself that is no longer dependent on external validation. You begin to listen inwardly, to respond honestly, to move forward even when the path is lonely, carrying yourself with dignity, patience, and an unshakable understanding that your well-being is reason enough